It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon PA.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Tim Doneli, who is a PA announcer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Brandon. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to become a public address announcer in sports?
Yeah, and again, well, it kind of really started out with wanting to do play-by-play announcing. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and always involved in sports. I was a big Pittsburgh Pirates and Pittsburgh Steelers fan growing up, and I just decided I wanted to be a broadcaster. So in high school, what I would do is I would go to my football and basketball games, and I would sit up in the stands and pretend I was doing play-by-play. And Brandon, one interesting anecdote I always share about the fact that it was my senior year, and I was at one of our basketball games, and I just happened to be sitting behind the cheerleaders. And so I began to do my play-by-play, and one of the cheerleaders turned around in the middle of it and said, "Man, Tim, that sounds really good." And I'm like, "Whoa, one of the cheerleaders said it sounded good." So that also helped to boost my confidence a little bit. And, I went to college at Edinburgh State University, which is a small Pennsylvania state school about 100 miles north of Pittsburgh. And I took all the broadcasting and communication courses that I could there. And the beautiful thing, Brandon, is they had a radio station on campus, and I was able to do the football and basketball play-by-play for the 2 years I was there. I went to a community college in Pittsburgh prior to transferring out. So that's kind of a little bit how the genesis of my broadcasting career, and it all started way back in high school.
Can you talk about, of course, how you knew that with studying sports broadcast, how has that helped you into the career you're at now?
Well, Brandon, I get asked that question a lot, and I'll be honest with you. Uh, I personally feel like, I don't know that you can teach somebody to be a broadcaster. I think you've either got to have that innate talent or you don't. Now, you can go to broadcast school and you can learn some things, and I believe in getting a good education, a good all-around education can certainly help you. But I just know even in college, a lot of the courses and whatnot, kind of just sprinkled around some things, but just being able to do it yourself. I felt that when I went up into the stands to do those games myself, that's where I really began to get better. And fortunately, being able to work on our college radio station, just being thrown in the fire and doing those games, I think was what really helped me. So if I was going to give some advice to some people who wanted to get into broadcasting, I would just say, try to get an internship, try to do something somewhere where you can get on, even if it's a small audience. Certainly a good education is good, but I think just getting the experience doing the play-by-play, whatnot at the hockey rink or up in the stands, take your tape recorder. Of course, we didn't have cell phones back then. We had cassette tape recorders when I was growing up, but take those up into the stands and practice it. And I think that's really how you're going to get better.
What was your experience like with the Soccer United team?
Yeah, well, again, I actually came to Charlotte, North Carolina from Baltimore in 1992 to be the general manager of the Charlotte Eagles soccer team in what was then called the United States Premier Soccer League, which is now the United Soccer Leagues. And there were only about maybe 13 teams around the country. Raleigh had a team back in 1992 called the Raleigh Flyers, and Greensboro had a team. And so that's really why I came to Charlotte. I spent several years with the Eagles as the general manager. I also did the public address announcing for them. But a couple of years ago, I got a call from the SC United Bantams, and they knew of my work with the Charlotte Eagles. And also, I was the general manager for 6 years with the Southern West Virginia Kings Warriors soccer team. And I did the PA announcing and play-by-play for them. So they called me, made me a very nice offer. It's a great organization. They're in Columbia, South Carolina. They have a beautiful stadium that they own. And one of the things, Brandon, I'll tell your viewers that I strongly believe, and I think smart teams believe, that a public address announcer is very much a huge part of your team home game presentation to your fans. An enthusiastic, professional public address announcer can add a lot to the atmosphere. And I think the teams that have hired me to do that, I've been very fortunate, realize that, and they're willing to, provide the necessary resources to do that. So good public address announcers are in demand, and smart, either professional teams, amateur teams, colleges, high schools, the smart schools and people that run the organizations, be it amateur, pro, college, high school, the smart ones realize that a good public address announcer is a very real value to the team's home game presentation.
While you were the play-by-play for the Charlotte Rush hockey, can you talk about what you experienced on the hockey side?
Well, again, to kind of go way back, I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. And in the late 60s, the Pittsburgh Penguins had just gotten a franchise for a National Hockey League team. It was the first expansion in the National Hockey League. So at 16 years of age, I went to my first game. I fell in love with hockey. And while I liked football and baseball, it was really hockey that I wanted to be involved in. And I ended up getting my first job with the Erie Blades of the North American Hockey League as the play-by-play announcer. And I did public address for them as well, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been privileged to be the play-by-play announcer of the Baltimore Skipjacks of the American Hockey League back in the 80s. We were the top affiliate of the NHL's Pittsburgh Penguins. And then I was also, when I moved to Charlotte, got involved with the Charlotte Checkers. We were a AA affiliate of the New York Rangers, and I got to work 13 years as the play-by-play announcer for the Charlotte Checkers. So that ended up becoming an opportunity for me when the Charlotte Rush of the United States Premier Hockey League started a franchise in the 2015-16 season. And that was pretty exciting. And they had heard of me and they brought me in. And again, very few teams in the USPHL. There are some, but they probably just get announcers who will do it for free or, very minimal pay. But I think the Rush saw, as I was talking about earlier, the value of having a professional public address announcer that enhances the home game atmosphere. And so they brought me on in 2015. I've been doing the PA and public address for them for 6 seasons. We just finished our final home schedule this past weekend. The Rush ended up winning the Southeast Division playoffs. They're now heading to the Nationals for the whole league, both the elite and premier team. So I've been very fortunate to be able to do the public address and play-by-play for the Charlotte Rush, a hockey team of the United States Premier Hockey League, which is a lower level junior league in the United States, but more and more college scouts are following this league, and guys usually play in it to get noticed so they can try to get to college. So been very grateful for the past 6 years to be involved with the Rush.
Can you talk about, of course, some of the differences between being a public address for hockey versus football?
Well, I would probably say the public address for hockey is not as extensive. I've done both. I've done basketball, football, volleyball, hockey. I've done a lot of different sports in public address. But basically in football, you're pretty much calling something on every play. You're, handoff to Johnson over the right side, tackled by so-and-so, a gain of 4. That brings up 2nd down and 6. So you're constantly announcing almost every play. Okay. In hockey, you don't do as much. You announce goals, you announce penalties. And so whenever there's penalties, whenever there's goals, you announce it. You announce the goals for your home team with enthusiasm, which is what I always try to do. And of course, the penalties are just kind of straight. You end up calling those. So it isn't as extensive in hockey. In football, it's a lot more extensive, obviously, because you're announcing something after every play.
Can you talk about, of course, getting the job with the Carolina Panthers and what you do for them?
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Well, I was very blessed back in the early 2000s. I think it was about 2001 or 2002. Riley Fields is the longtime and very prestigious director of community relations for the Carolina Panthers. And he knew me from before he got the job as the Panthers. He worked for the Charlotte area Park and Rec, and they would host some football games. And he got me to do the PA for these high school football games that they had at a big stadium in Charlotte every Friday night. And so anyway, I did those for him. And then when he got the Panthers job, he remembered me and he called me up one day and said, Tim, we're going to be doing something called the Panthers Highlight Heroes, which is basically we're going to take youth football footage from Pop Warner games in all of the Carolinas. We're going to splice together a 60-second each week highlights, and then we'd like you to narrate these. And they're going to be put up on the big screens at Bank of America Stadium in between one of the TV timeouts for people to watch. So he brought me in, and that's kind of how I started with the Panthers. And I've been doing those highlight heroes now for, almost 18 years now. I go in during the football season. They have the highlights and the scripts. I read them, and it's my voice in the background describing what's going on in these youth football highlights. And then that translated to an offer from the Panthers, which is my favorite, which is to be the TV play-by-play announcer for what they call the Little Panthers Games of the Month. And so the Panthers are extremely committed to the youth football community in the Carolinas, North and South Carolina. And so they were going to televise 3 games a year, okay? And so they brought me in to do the play-by-play for these games. And by the way, it's a big production, Brandon. The Panthers probably spend $20,000 a game to produce these games. We have a huge TV truck, much like you see at the stadium for the NFL games. We have 5 cameras around the stadium. They always play at a big stadium somewhere. We've played at Memorial Stadium, Wofford College in South Carolina. There's a big stadium in Rock Hill, South Carolina that seats about 10, 12,000. So for these youth football kids that are usually playing on a sandlot field somewhere, they get to play in a big stadium. So we have 5 cameras around the stadium. I do the play-by-play. They bring in a former Panthers player to be my color analyst, and that's been a whole lot of fun. I've had a bunch of different guys over the years. Former defensive back Mike Skurlock, who played at the University of Arizona with the Panthers for several years. Also Al Wallace, a defensive end who played college at the University of Maryland and played on the Carolina Panthers Super Bowl team in 2004 against the New England Patriots. I also did I had Jeff Swartz, who was a former offensive lineman with the Panthers. His brother, younger brother, is still an offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, won a Super Bowl with them last year, Marshall Swartz. And then also Kevin Donelli, who played at the University of North Carolina, was also an offensive lineman for many years with the Panthers. He also played on that 2004 Super Bowl team for the Panthers when they played the New England Patriots. So those are some of the players, Brandon, I've been really privileged to work with as color analysts during these Little Panthers games. Also, we have instant replay. We have a sideline reporter, just like they do at the NFL games. They record all the kids at the beginning of the game saying, My name's Joe Jones. I go to Alexander Middle School, and I'm a wide receiver. Just kind of like you see at the NFL games when they announce the players and whatnot. They do all that for the kids. They invite a couple of current Carolina Panthers players that will go into each locker room and rile up the guys and get them all psyched up for the game. And then they'll stay on the sidelines with the guys during the game and also go to midfield for the coin toss. So this is a wonderful way that the Carolina Panthers have shown tremendous support for the youth football community. So since 2005, I've been the play-by-play announcer for these games every year. We've had a great time with it. The kids all get a DVD of the game after it's over. It's up on all the Panthers social media sites. So it's a lot of fun. They air it on cable TV almost relentlessly. In fact, we didn't do them this past year because there was no pop football, Brandon, here in Charlotte because of the pandemic. And they were still airing games from 2 years ago on cable TV. I had people even recently, hey, Tim, I saw you on TV last week. I'm like, that must be an old game. But so these games get a lot of airplay. And that's kind of probably my favorite part of the Panthers. Another thing, Brandon, that I do with the Panthers that, again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and Riley Fields, the longtime and very well-respected community relations director for the Panthers, asked me to do is 1 or 2 times a season, the Panthers will bring in 2 Pop Warner youth football teams, and at halftime, they will let them play a mini game on Bank of America Stadium's field. There's 70,000 people there. So they bring me in at halftime, and I get to do the play-by-play for this little brief 10-minute mini game that each of these teams do. And so can you imagine these little kids, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old? They're on Bank of America Stadium playing on the same field that the NFL players do in front of 70,000 people. So I get to do the public address for those games, calling the play-by-play in the middle of the game. And Brandon, I'm not going to lie to you. When you get in that PA booth and you look out and you see 70,000 people and you press that button and your PA mic is on, it's quite a thrill. I can tell you, I really enjoy it. And then finally, another thing that I do for the Panthers is every year, the Panthers have what they call a Weekend Warriors flag football tournament. They bring in 140 teams from everywhere. Most of the teams are in the Carolinas, but there's some that come as far as Florida, Michigan, to be a part of this weekend. They have like 5 different divisions, and they have they crown the champions who go all the way and win in each division. It's a 2-day affair, and so I do the public address introducing all the teams. There's 4 flag football fields on the Bank of America Stadium turf, and there's 4 games going on at all the time. So it's a 2-day affair. And by the way, the winners, these flag football teams that win, they get special championship rings from Jostens, and they bring all the teams out to midfield at a Panthers preseason game to give them their championship rings. How about that for those flag
That's so amazing.
That win that, to be in front of 70,000 people and get presented with championship rings. So hope I didn't go on too long about that, but those are the things I've been able to do for the Panthers for the last 18 seasons. And again, just so grateful to God for the opportunity he's given me to be a part of a National Football League team.
That's so amazing that you've done so many great things with the Panthers. Can you talk about, of course, have you worked with Teddy Bridgewater or Christian McCaffrey since they've been there?
Yeah, I haven't been able to run into them. But when Cam Newton was here, Brandon, he was very involved in the community here in Charlotte. And for several years, he had what they call a school day, and he would bring several hundred high school students who had good grades that earned this trip to come to Memorial Stadium, which is in downtown Charlotte. It seats about 20,000 people. And Cam would be there. They'd have all these little games you would play on the field, and then he would address all the students in the stands. And I did the public address for that. And so Did that for several years. So I did have some connection with Cam Newton in that regard. And Brandon, a funny story. The first time that I did this, I was underneath a tent holding the microphone, and they had all the scripts for me and everything. And so as he first came onto the field, there was tons of media there. They all wanted to interview him, of course, and get clips of this. But anyway, he saw me and he walked over to me and stuck his hand out. He said, "Hi," he said, "I'm Cam Newton." And I'm like, yeah, I think everybody knows who you are. I need to introduce myself to you. Everybody knows who you are. But he was very gracious and very friendly. And I'll never forget that brief encounter that I had with Cam Newton. And so again, I did have some correspondence with him as the public address announcer for some of his events that he had for the kids during his career here in Charlotte.
What advice would you give upcoming future people looking to become public address announcers?
Okay, well, I'll just tack on to public address or play-by-play announcers. I think, basically it's just get experience. Just go in the stands and practice. Do it in your house, record it, go back and listen to it. And that's the way you're going to get experience. Also, Brandon, I will tell you this, is that one characteristic that has always gotten me jobs as a public address announcer in sports, but also as a play-by-play announcer in a number of sports, is enthusiasm. People want people that are enthusiastic. You can say, John Jones' pass is complete for Joe Smith for a touchdown. Or you can say, and Joe Jones hooked up with John Smith, 45-yard touchdown pass. And Mallard Creek is up 7-0 over Vance. See the difference? People like enthusiastic announcers. And I've always said to myself, Tim, if there's 20 people in the stands, or 10,000 people in the stands, if it's a youth football game, or you're doing something for an NFL team or an NHL team, you pretend you're announcing for the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup, the NBA championship. You make it sound as exciting as it could be. And Brandon, those two characteristics have always served me well. I'm going to tell our viewers and listeners another good thing to remember is that, there are a lot of talented announcers out there, a lot of talented announcers. Okay. But people like to hire people that are easy to get along with, friendly, and no maintenance. Okay. There's tons of guys out there, but people don't want to work with somebody who's not cooperative, who's not friendly. You have to get along with people in this world to survive and to do well. And sometimes that's difficult, right? Because people can be difficult, can't they? Absolutely. But I've always tried to be accommodating, friendly, get along with other people. Those are the kind of people that teams and schools want to hire. So, and by the way, Brandon, I've been in broadcasting for 45 years now. I'm in my upper 60s. Okay. I feel like I'm 35 and I feel like I'm a 35-year-old announcer. I think my voice sounds like that, but I still practice my trade. I still practice in the shower. I review things. When I'm driving in the car, I pretend I'm doing things, I repeat things. Practice interviews, practice doing play-by-play. You're never at a point where you can stop practicing your trade. You continue to do it. Again, I'm not boasting, but I've been in this for 45 years and I still practice. Another tip I would give our viewers is that if you are going to be in sports broadcasting, especially play-by-play, 50% of being successful is knowing the players' numbers and names inside out. You need immediate recognition. When you see a number, you need to remember that name. It needs to come right off the top of your head. If you see a name, you need to know exactly what their uniform number is. That takes study and that takes practice. What I do when I'm preparing for a game, Brandon, I have my roster in front of me, numbers, names. I cover up the names, look at the numbers, tell okay, who's the player? Who's number 12? Who's number 28? Who's number 44? Then I take the paper and I cover up the numbers. Okay, what number is that player? Da, 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 da. I do it both ways until I've got pretty much immediate recognition. Because you want to know something, Brandon? If you've ever listened to some games on radio, TV, what's the worst thing you want to hear is, all right, there's the handoff to that's number 45, Joe Jones. You don't want to hear that, right? You can tell the announcer hasn't prepared. Okay. You need to have those numbers inside your head and out, names and numbers. And if you can do that well, and you have that immediate recognition, you're 50% of the way toward becoming a successful play-by-play announcer. So those are some of the things that I tell young aspiring announcers that are, very important things to work on if they're going to be successful.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at and book you at if they need any play-by-play?
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I'm so glad you asked that. Again, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm willing to travel. I've traveled to other places to do games. And the best place to really reach me is just my email address, which is Tim Doneli, that's my name, 44@gmail.com. That's TIMDONELLI 44@gmail.com. You could also call the Carolina Panthers, and if you can't remember that email address, and they would certainly give you my contact information. Again, I can do all sports, PA, play-by-play. I've got 45 years experience, which I'm not boasting about, but just grateful to God for allowing me to have this opportunity for so many years. But yeah, if you have a need, would love to help you out if the details work out. And again, that email address, Tim Doneli 44@gmail.com, TIMDONELLI@gmail.com.
Thank you again, Tim Doneli, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as a play-by-play announcer.
Hey, Brandon, thank you so much. It was my privilege to be on with you today.
You're welcome. Thank you again for my listeners. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Tim Doneli, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. Take care, and God bless to all.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.